Do you know what these three things have in common? There's a person running, there's chocolate, and there's savings. Well, the answer is dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter in the brain that affects your mood and, more importantly, makes you happy, but it also leads to addiction. And so I don't know if you are runners, but running definitely leads to addiction. Chocolate, you can be addicted to addiction. And believe it or not, saving money also is addicting. And I will explain further why that is, but I myself have been saving, trying this new technique on 52 weeks of saving money, and believe me, it does get very addicting because you like that feeling. It hits the same receptors. It's no different than when you text or you check your phone for notifications. Because you enjoy that high, you definitely do it more and more often. And so I just want to stress that saving does the same thing. I want to tell you about the benefits of saving money. As I mentioned earlier, it increases stability. It helps you prioritize. Now, when you pay yourself first, you are taking care of yourself first, and you're saying that you are important. And that's the way it should be. If you work so hard for this money that you're earning, and even financial aid, let's say you receive financial aid, well, the reason why you're getting it is because you're a good student. So it's important to prioritize it, and it really, saving the money and spending it wisely is a way to prioritize. It creates discipline. When you give $1 a job, every dollar a job, then you're basically being responsible and saying, well, this is what will happen with this money. If its job is to sit in the savings account, that's what it's going to do. And it helps you not spend it. Less worry or stress, definitely. Saving gives you that cushion, that peace of mind, knowing that you have some money kind of like on the reserve. It avoids the golden handcuffs. Now that's related to, let's say, as I mentioned, Americans are not living paycheck to paycheck. Over 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, which means that even families that earn over $75,000 still can make ends meet. And so what happens is, because either they're in debt or they're trying to just keep up, then they have something called the golden handcuffs, where they're tied to their job and they're just constantly working, trying to just make ends meet. And so saving money avoids the golden handcuffs, where you don't have to be, very subject to your job. You can actually have that breathing room. Develops good spending habits, because saving is a behavior. Feel a sense of accomplishment. And, well, not only is it very addictive, but I like to feel happy all the time, right? And so I would like to do things that will, give me that sense of accomplishment. And believe me, when you save that dollar, or you save that $5 and not spend it, and can last a long time without having to spend it, you should definitely be proud of yourself and pat yourself in the back. So let me just show you kind of like a visual representation on how to save money. It's not as difficult as you may think. So the first thing is you have to set saving goals. Savings, just for the sake of savings, may not mean as much to you unless there's a reason why you're saving. And so in the earlier slides, when I was sharing with you what's the whole point of saving, why would you want to save, and some of you kind of shared your reasons, and I shared others, that is an incentive to save. So you can have many saving goals, and yet you can have, different saving accounts. But if you don't have goals, it's going to make it a little difficult, right? It's one thing for me to save, but if there's a goal behind it, then you'll be more inclined. To help you with meeting your saving goals is to try to look at what you're doing now, and how are you spending your money, and could you minimize your expenses so that you can put more money into that savings goal, right? A savings goal, by the way, can be as small as $50 by the end of the month, all right? But it could also be as large as $1,000 or whatever you want it to be. But you definitely, if you are interested in savings, you have to minimize your expenses. Stop wasteful spending. One way to do that is to kind of track, maybe not daily, but weekly or monthly, just kind of see where your money is going. If you ever find yourself asking, where's my money going? It's probably going to wasteful spending. That is subjective, but keep in mind, do you really need that? And could you have reduced that? You know, was it a want as opposed to a need? And we actually had done a webinar about that earlier as well. And then once you kind of have that in mind, where you have a goal, you start minimizing your expenses, you start really stopping your wasteful spending, then you definitely have a plan, because you are committed now that you're saying, okay, this is how I'm going to save the money. And as you can see, paying yourself first is very important. So let's talk about paying yourself first. What does that mean? Well, if I worked very hard, especially if I worked 40 hours a week, and I end up getting my paycheck, saving is a way of paying yourself first for hard-earned money, right? Just getting the paycheck is one thing, but actually keeping it for you is more important, right? Instead of having to, in haste, go ahead and start paying your bills, which are important, but pay yourself first. You deserve it. One way to do that is through automatic transfers. And so if you do, for example, automatic deposit, you can set aside some of that money that will go right into savings, so that when you finally see your check, you see it in a different way, right? You see it less, but that's because you've already saved some of the money, and you saved it in a remote area where you know you're not going to tap into it. Piggy banks, I shared, right? If you have a visual representation of saving, you can go ahead and do that too to pay yourself first. Savings accounts, they're very good if you have a commitment to put money there weekly. But again, the whole automatic transfer really works, and I encourage you to consider doing that as an option. Now, is it cheaper to save than borrow? You bet it is. And matter of fact, let me give you an example here. So let's say I was saving $200 a month for 10 years. All right, let's look at this big goal. At 6.8%. So in other words, I'm saving, and the return is 6.8% on the money that I'm putting away. I would have saved in 10 years $34,400. That's a lot of money. And that's pretty cool. Of course, I'd be very proud, right? But on the other hand, let's say you had to borrow $34,400, and you had to pay back that in 10 years at a 6.8% rate. You would actually be paying $396 a month. And so you can see that saving is cheaper than borrowing, and there's a visual representation on how that is. Saving really helps minimize having to borrow, not only from the student loan program, but also from parents. You know, you don't have to put them in that situation. When you save, interest is paid to you. And that's great. It's called compound interest, right? The banks are actually saying, thank you for letting me borrow your money. Here's some return for you. But if you do it the other way, where you end up unfortunately having to borrow, then you pay the interest, and so you're paying them the money, and then of course it just gets a little bit more expensive. So I just thought I'd share that so you can see that it's important to pay yourself first, and that it is cheaper than borrowing. Now, as I get ready to conclude this brief webinar, one thing I do want to talk about is this. Here's a great way to start a savings plan. I myself have started this. Matter of fact, this week is week 41. So if you take the whole calendar year, right, so the first week in January is week 1, and then the last week in December is week 52, it's basically inviting you to take the 52-week money challenge. That if every week of the calendar you go ahead and save that amount of money, you will have saved $1,378. And let me tell you, it does definitely work. And so the way it would work is the first week in January, you save $1. The second week in January, you save $2. The third week in January, you save $3, and so on and so on and so on. Right now, we are in the third week in November, so we're in week 41, I believe, 41 or 42. And so, as you can see, you would have already saved $903. And so, and then that's what you do. And so the idea is that you don't have to save so much money. By the end of the saving program, the most you have saved, you put away, is $52. And I think that's pretty cool. And then if you put it in a savings account that pays you back, then every money that just sits there, it's more money that you can get back. So for example, that the fact that we're in week 41 or week 42, I forget, sorry, and I've saved $903, maybe I don't have $903 saved there because they've been paying me for having the money saved there. Maybe I actually have $950, right? But in the end, at the minimum, you would have saved $1,378. I would invite you to take a picture of it. Matter of fact, like I said, personally, I've been doing this and it's very good. And that's why I know that it's addicting, because as I'm getting ready to, let's say I'm going on week 43 or something like that, and I'm ready to save the $43, I'm more inclined to save it because of that great feeling, because I'm getting so close to my goal that then I'm less likely to spend it on something else. And if that means I don't get to eat maybe out with my friends this week because I saved, my $42 or whatever, and that's cool. Well, we can arrange it some other way later. But once you have your 1,378, you can choose to build up on that, or you can use it and finally do something with it, right? I think one of the goals that I have for this 1,378, if I stick with it and I successfully get to the end of the year, I want to pay, credit cards. Why not? That's the way I'm handling it, right? Maybe you want to use it to buy a new computer. Maybe you want to use it to help a family, right? Whatever it is. But the main thing is that you should be proud of having successfully meet that. So anyways, I invite you guys to consider the 52-week money challenge.